The starship Solwind moved slowly through the stars, its silver wings glowing under the distant sun. Inside the ship, humans were preparing for something historic. It was the first time Earth had been invited to join the Galactic Union, a council of many alien species from across the galaxy. The mission was simple: attend peace talks and build trust. But for Ravi, a young human technician, it felt like something much bigger. Ravi was not a soldier. He didn't carry weapons or wear armor. He worked with machines. He fixed drones, controlled systems, and made sure everything worked smoothly. Most of the time, no one noticed him, but he didn't mind. He liked the quiet work. This time, however, things were different. The ship was carrying a special team of humans and alien warriors together. They were traveling to the planet Veron, a green world that floated between the human border and the alien alliance. It was a place chosen for peace, but no one could forget the silent threat of the Xanax, a wild alien species that did not believe in unity. As Ravi walked through the ship's lower decks, he looked at the alien warriors. They were tall, strong, and strange. Their armor was smooth like glass, and their helmets covered their faces completely. They didn't speak much. One of them stood near the training hall every day, always still, always alone. Her name was Mira. Ravi didn't know much about her. No one did. She never took off her helmet. She never joined the meals or the games. She trained in silence. There was something about her, something quiet and powerful, that made Ravi curious. He often found himself watching from a distance. She moved like wind through water. Every step had purpose. One evening, Commander Lee called a meeting in the control room. The human and alien teams gathered around a large screen. The planet Veron was shown, spinning slowly. "We land tomorrow," the commander said. "We'll meet the Union Council near the Farce base. Be alert. The Xanax have been spotted nearby. But no attacks yet. We go in peace, but we stay ready." Ravi stood in the back, silent as always, but his heart beat faster. This mission wasn't just about fixing drones anymore. It was about showing that humans could work side by side with alien warriors. Could they really do that? The next morning, the shuttle landed on Veron. The air was fresh, and the sky was soft blue. Trees with glowing leaves lined the valley. Birds, unlike any on Earth, flew high above. Ravi stepped onto the soil and looked around. It didn't feel like a war zone. It felt peaceful. The teams began building a small camp near the Union base. Ravi worked on setting up defense drones. Around the area, he placed small flying bots in the trees and connected them to his control pad. While working, he noticed Mira walking past. She didn't look at him, but for a moment, her head turned slightly as if she noticed him too. That night, as stars filled the sky, the team sat around lights. Stories were shared. But Mira stood alone near the edge of the camp. Ravi, holding a toolkit, slowly walked toward her. "Do you need help with anything?" he asked softly. She turned slightly. "No." Her voice was clear but calm, like wind on still water. Ravi nodded and turned to leave but paused. "You fight really?" "Well," he said, "I saw you in training." There was silence for a moment. Then she said, "Thank you." It was only 2 words, but it meant something. Ravi smiled, then returned to his work. Later that night, alarms rang across the camp. Red lights flashed. Commander Lee's voice came through the speakers. "Everyone, to your posts. Drones have spotted movement near the outer forest. Be ready." Ravi rushed to the station. On his screen, he saw heat signatures moving in the trees. Too many to count. They were fast Xanax. The threat was real now. The warriors armed themselves and formed a line near the entrance of the camp. Ravi stayed near the control panel, sending commands to the drones. He watched as Mira stepped forward, her armor shining under the camp lights. She raised her weapon, silent as ever. The drones buzzed to life, flying out like a swarm. Ravi directed them to cover the trees, using his skills to guide them quickly. The first wave of Xanax broke through, but were stopped by the combined fire of human and alien teams. In the middle of it all, Ravi saw Mira leap forward with such grace that it looked like she was flying. Her moves were fast and perfect. She defended one of the human scouts without hesitation. It was clear this warrior was something special. Ravi stayed focused on the drones, but a loud sound pulled his eyes to the battlefield. A heavy Xanax creature had struck Mira hard. She fell back, and her helmet cracked. Then it fell off. Time slowed. Ravi looked up from his control screen. His eyes found her face for the first time. Her skin was soft blue, glowing faintly under the night lights. Her eyes were large and calm, filled with something he couldn't explain. Her hair moved like silk in the wind. She looked like a painting from another world. Ravi didn't realize he was whispering. Magnificent. She stood again, eyes locked, with his just for a second. Then she turned back toward the fight. Ravi blinked, still stunned. He wasn't a warrior. He wasn't brave like the others. But in that moment, he felt something strong rise in his heart. Respect, wonder, connection. He looked down at his control pad. If she fights, I fight, he said, and pushed the drones forward with new strength. The forest was quiet again, but the camp was not. After the Xanax attack, everyone was alert. Lights stayed on through the night. The defense drones circled the trees like silent birds. No one rested easy. Ravi sat on a crate near the drone station. His fingers moved over the control pad, checking the drones one by one. He had recharged them, updated their paths, and made sure their sensors were working perfectly. It was his way of helping, even if he wasn't a fighter. Across the camp, Mira stood with two alien warriors. Her face was still uncovered. Some soldiers whispered and pointed, surprised to see her without the helmet. But she didn't seem to care. She stood tall, calm, and focused. Ravi looked at her from a distance. He remembered the moment during the battle, how the helmet fell, how time seemed to stop, how he whispered magnificent without thinking. That word still echoed in his mind. He didn't expect her to remember. But a strange thing happened. She turned and walked toward him. Ravi quickly stood up. His heart beat faster. You control the drones, Mira said. Yes, he replied, trying to sound normal. I just guided them. You were the one in danger. I tried to help. You did well, she said simply. For a moment, they both stood in silence. Then Mira looked at the screen beside him. These machines follow your mind, my hands, Ravi said with a small smile. But maybe a little of my mind too. She looked impressed, even though her face didn't show much. Then she said, you should come with me tomorrow. Scout patrol. Ravi blinked. Me? You see what others don't. We need that. Before he could answer, she turned and walked away. The next day, Ravi found himself walking through the forest beside Mira. He wore a light armored vest and carried a small pack filled with drone parts. Mira led the way, silent but watchful. Two more warriors walked behind them, one alien named Koro and one human scout named Benel. The trees around them were tall and wide, glowing slightly with green light. Strange creatures made soft sounds in the distance. The forest felt alive, like it was watching. Ravi stayed close to Mira, scanning the area with his portable drone pad. He sent out 3 small bots that flew ahead quietly. Their cameras showed the path forward. Clear so far, Ravi said. Mira nodded. Stay alert. They moved carefully through the brush. Koro checked the map. Benel looked nervous, but followed orders. As they walked, Ravi asked, have you worked with humans before? Mira didn't look at him, but answered, no. Do you trust us? There was a pause. Then she said, I trust what I see, and I saw you help. Ravi felt a strange warmth in his chest. Suddenly, his drone pad beeped, movement ahead. He said, 5 shapes, low to the ground, fast. Mira raised her hand, stopping the group. Xanax scouts, could be. Not sure. Koro stepped forward. Should we engage? Mira shook her head. No. We watch, learn. She moved ahead quietly, signaling Ravi to follow. He crouched and kept the drones flying above. Through the camera, he saw 5 Xanax creatures moving through the trees. They weren't attacking, they were planting small devices into the ground. Ravi zoomed in. They're not warriors. They're scouts, he said. Looks like signal boosters. Mira narrowed her eyes. They're calling others, Koro whispered. We can stop them. No, Mira said. Too risky. We return and report. But just as they turned, a sharp sound rang through the forest. One of Ravi's drones hit a branch and fell. Crashing near the Xanax, all 5 creatures turned toward the sound. They saw us, Benel shouted. The Xanax charged. Mira moved fast. Defensive line. Koro and Benel took cover behind trees. Mira pulled out her weapon, a staff that glowed with blue light, and stood in front of Ravi. He activated his last drone and sent it high, feeding images to the team. The Xanax reached them quickly, but Mira was faster. She struck with perfect control, blocking attacks and keeping them away from Ravi. Koro joined the fight, using a stun blade. Benel fired a shock rifle from behind cover. Ravi tried to stay calm. He controlled the drone, guiding it to confuse the enemies. The drone flashed lights and made loud sounds, distracting 2 of the Xanax. That gave Mira a chance to knock them down with swift blows. But one creature jumped from behind, aiming straight for Ravi. Mira turned just in time and blocked it with her body. The hit knocked her to the ground. Her weapon fell from her hand. Ravi ran to her. Mira. She looked up, breathing hard. Get back. But Ravi didn't run. Instead, he grabbed her staff and pointed it toward the last Xanax. He had no idea how to use it, but it reacted to his grip. The staff glowed, and a wave of light pushed the creature back. Koro finished it with a stun blade. Silence returned. Mira slowly stood up, looking at Ravi with quiet surprise. You picked up the staff. She said, I didn't mean to. You protected me. You protected me first, Ravi said with a smile. Mira looked at him for a long moment. Then, for the first time, she gave a small nod. You're more than a technician. Ravi helped her walk back to the group. The scouts were defeated, but the mission was clear. The Xanax were preparing for a larger attack. That evening, back at the camp, Commander Lee listened to their report. They're planning to jam our signals, Ravi explained. If we didn't stop those scouts, we might have lost communication. During the next attack, Commander Lee looked at Mira. You made the right call. Well done. Mira simply nodded. Then she looked at Ravi. He helped. Lee smiled. Seems like this partnership works. Later, as the stars filled the sky again, Ravi sat outside the drone tent. Mira stood beside him, quiet as usual. He looked at her and said, You knew I could help, even before I did. She replied, I saw how you looked at the fight, not with fear, with focus. He laughed softly. I still don't understand half of what you do. You don't need to. You understand what matters. They sat in silence, looking at the stars. The air felt lighter now. Something had changed, not just in the mission, but between them. The next morning, the camp felt different. The sky over Varan was a soft gray, and mist floated between the trees. Birds made light sounds, and the wind moved gently through the tall grass. But even in the quiet, everyone was busy preparing. The Xanax were getting bolder, and no one wanted to be caught by surprise. Ravi was back at his station, checking his drones. He cleaned the sensors, fixed a few wings, and updated their flight maps. But his mind wasn't on the machines. He kept thinking about the farce fight, about the moment he picked up Mira's staff, about the way she looked at him afterward like he mattered. Commander Lee stood in front of the team near the camp center. His voice was firm. We need to map the old ruins north of the valley. We believe the Xanax are using that area to hide their supplies. This mission won't be easy. The terrain is rough and signals are weak there. He looked around, then pointed at Ravi and Mira. You two will go first. A small team can move faster. Ravi will guide the drones. Mira will lead protection. This is a scout mission only. Do not engage. Ravi blinked. Me? Again, you proved yourself. The commander said, You work well together. Mira said nothing, but nodded once soon after. Ravi and Mira were walking through a narrow path surrounded by thick trees and glowing flowers. The air smelled sweet and strange. Small lights floated in the air, like tiny stars. Ravi looked at Mira as they walked. You sure I'm the right one for this? You don't panic, Mira replied. You observe. That matters more than weapons. He smiled. And what about you? Do you always go on missions alone? She didn't answer right away. Then she said, I used to. Why? Because others often see what I am, not who I am. Ravi looked at her face, even without her helmet. She still held a kind of quiet shield around her. She looked strong, but also distant. Well, Ravi said softly, I see someone who saved my life. That made her pause for a second. She didn't reply, but the corner of her mouth moved slightly, almost a smile. After 2 hours of walking, they reached the edge of the ruins. Old stone walls stood half buried in the ground. Vines covered most of the buildings. Strange carvings marked the walls, glowing faintly in the dim light. Ravi sent his drones forward. On his screen, he saw broken towers, large empty halls, and one strange round structure in the center. There, he pointed. That building looks important. Mira scanned the area. Stay low. Follow me. They moved slowly through the ruins. Each step was careful. Ravi watched the drone feed while Mira checked corners and doorways. There were no Xanax in sight, but the place felt alive, like it was waiting. Inside the round building, they found something unexpected. A large stone circle with symbols carved into it stood in the middle of the floor. At its center, a metal device hummed quietly. Ravi stepped closer. I think this is a signal relay. Mira nodded. Xanax technology, but mixed with old ruins. Strange. As Ravi leaned down to scan it, the device suddenly flashed. Wait, Mira began. A light beam shot from the center, hitting the wall. Symbols lit up around the room. Then, the floor beneath them shook. Trap! Mira shouted. The ground opened, and both of them fell. They landed in a soft layer of dust and leaves. Ravi coughed and looked around. They were inside an underground chamber. The walls were smooth and silver, with soft lights glowing along them. Edges, are you okay? He asked. Yes, Mira replied, standing up quickly. This place is not Xanax. It's older. Ravi walked to one of the walls. These markings, they match some Union codes, but this building isn't in the Union maps. It's hidden. Suddenly, a soft voice spoke from the wall. It wasn't in any known language, but the tone was calm, almost musical. What was that? Ravi whispered. Mira touched one of the glowing panels. A message, a memory left behind. The wall showed images, ships flying through stars, alien people gathering in peace, and strange blue symbols forming a circle. Ravi watched in awe. This is ancient knowledge. Someone built this long before the Xanax. Yes, Mira said. And the Xanax are trying to use it for war. They explored the room carefully. At the far end, Ravi found a console with blinking lights. He placed his hand on it, and the screen shifted into human language. It's a map, he said. A network of secret tunnels under the forest. The Xanax must be using these to move without being seen. Mira stepped beside him. This could change everything. We can block their movements. Just then, the screen flashed red. Warning, it said. Intrusion detected. Mira's eyes narrowed. They're coming. Back at the surface, Koro and Benel received a distress ping from Ravi's drone. They quickly informed Commander Lee, who sent backup toward the ruins. But deep below, Ravi and Mira were already on the move. This way, Mira said, guiding him through a side tunnel. Ravi ran beside her, carrying his drone pad. If we reach the exit near the South Hill, we can send the full map to the camp. Mira nodded. Keep moving. As they ran, the lights in the tunnels flickered. A distant growl echoed through the stone halls. They're already inside, Mira said. They reached a stairwell leading up. As they climbed, they heard footsteps behind them, fast and sharp dot at the top. Light poured in through a crack in the wall. Mira pushed the door open, and they stepped out into the fresh air. They had escaped. Ravi dropped to the ground, breathing hard. Mira stood beside him, scanning the trees. Give me the data, she said. Ravi uploaded the map and handed it to her. Here, all tunnels, all entrances. Mira looked at the screen, then looked at him. You found this because you paid attention. You listened. You looked deeper. Ravi smiled. You helped me see. Back at the camp, the map was shared with all teams. Commander Lee quickly formed a plan to block the tunnels before the next Xanax attack. The whole camp buzzed with energy and hope. Later that night, as the stars shone once more, Ravi sat alone near the edge of the camp. Mira walked up quietly and sat beside him. "You were brave today," she said. Ravi looked up. "I was just following you." "No," she said, "you walked beside me." For the first time, her voice had warmth. They sat together in silence, not as soldier and technician, not as alien and human, but as partners and likely, yet perfectly balanced. The next day began quietly. The sun rose over the forest of Varan, casting golden light across the camp. But inside the command tent, the team moved with sharp focus. Commander Lee stood beside a large screen showing the newly discovered tunnel map. Red lines marked Xanax movement routes. Green dots showed human and alien defense points. "We have one chance," Lee said, "if we block the tunnels near the ruins. We stop the Xanax from surrounding us. But it won't be easy. They know we found the map." Mira stood near the screen, her arms crossed. Ravi sat beside his drone panel, watching closely. "I'll go with the first unit," Mira said. "We'll plant the charges at the 3 main tunnel exits. I'll guide the drones," Ravi added. "We can scan for hidden guards or traps, Commander." Lee nodded. "You two work well together. Be careful." Hours later, the mission began. Mira led a small team through the woods, moving quickly and quietly. Ravi followed close behind, his eyes on the drone screen. Koro, Benel, and another warrior named Tarn walked beside them. The air was cooler under the trees. The forest was calm, but everyone felt the tension. Ravi whispered to Mira, "Do you think they're waiting for us?" She replied, "Yes, but we move smarter." They reached the first tunnel exit. It was a small cave opening hidden behind thick vines. Mira signaled for silence. Koro checked the ground. Tarn placed a charge near the entrance. Ravi launched a drone above the trees. No movement nearby. He said softly. They moved to the second tunnel. This one was hidden under a fallen rock. It took time to uncover, but again, they planted the charge without trouble. "To quiet," Mira whispered. "They're watching." Ravi nodded. "They know we're here. They're waiting for the right moment." As they approached the third tunnel, a wide opening behind a cluster of thick trees, Mira raised her hand. "Stop." Everyone froze. The wind shifted. The trees rustled. Ravi looked at his screen. One drone was gone. "Lost signal," he said. One of the drones went dark. "Trap," Mira said. Suddenly, sharp blasts came from both sides. The trees lit up. With bursts of light, the team dove for cover. Xanax warriors charged out from hidden spots. They weren't many, but they were fast and fierce. Mira blocked the first attacker with her staff, moving like flowing water. Koro and Tarn stood back to back, holding the line. Ravi ducked behind a large root, trying to control the drones with shaky hands. One of the drones found the enemy's hidden position in the trees. Ravi sent a signal to flash bright light. The Xanax were blinded for a moment, just enough time for Mira to knock 2 of them down with a spin of her staff. But one large Xanax broke through and slammed into Mira. She fell hard, her staff flying from her hand. Her head hit the ground. Her helmet, already cracked from before, shattered completely and fell away. Ravi turned in time to see her face in the middle of the battle. The same face he had seen once before. Calm, beautiful, strong. Even with dust on her skin and blood on her forehead, she looked like something from a story. Ravi whispered again, almost without thinking. "Magnificent." She stood, slowly, her blue eyes glowing brighter. The air around her felt different now. She moved without fear. With no weapon in her hands, she raised both arms from her wrists. A wave of energy spread out, pushing the attackers back. Koro stared in surprise. What was that? Mira didn't answer. She walked forward and picked up her staff again. The Xanax began to retreat, unsure of what they had just seen. Benel helped Ravi up. "What did she do?" "I don't know," Ravi said, "but it saved us." When the last of the Xanax ran, Mira walked back to the tunnel. She placed the final charge near the entrance. "Everyone clear," she said. The group moved back through the trees. Mira pressed a button on her wrist. The 3 tunnel exits exploded loud but clean. No one was hurt. Thick smoke rose from the earth as the tunnels collapsed. Mission complete. Back at camp, the team was met with cheers. The command tent buzzed with activity. Commander Lee walked up to Mira and Ravi. "You did it," he said. "The tunnels are sealed. They'll have to face us directly now." Mira nodded, but said nothing. Lee turned to Ravi. "What happened out there?" "The report says Mira used some kind of energy pulse." Ravi looked at Mira. She gave a small nod, giving him silent permission. She used energy from her body. Ravi said, "It's not tech. It's part of her. She didn't want to show it, but it saved us." Lee looked at Mira with new understanding. "There's more to you than we knew." "I was told to hide it," Mira said softly. "Because some are afraid of it." "Not us," Lee replied. "Not anymore." That night, the camp was quiet. Again. But inside Ravi's small tent, his mind was racing. He sat outside, looking at the stars. When Mira approached, she sat beside him without a word. He looked at her. Her face had a small cut, and dust still clung to her armor. But her eyes were steady. "Why did you hide your power?" he asked. She looked down. "My people feared others would treat us differently. Some thought we should be weapons, others thought we should be locked away. So I stayed quiet." Ravi nodded slowly. "But when you saved us, it wasn't just power. It was heart." She looked at him, and for the first time, smiled gently. "You saw me," she said. "When the helmet fell, you didn't look away. You were—" He stopped, then chuckled softly. "You were magnificent." Mira shook her head. "I am only what I need to be." Ravi smiled. "That's what makes you special." They sat side by side in silence, not just as teammates now, but as something more. Morning came slowly after the tunnel mission. The sky above the forest was cloudy, and the air felt heavy. Birds flew low, and the camp was quiet to quiet inside the tech tent. Ravi sat at his drone station, looking at the screen, but not really seeing it. His thoughts were still in the ruins. The image of Mira using that strange glowing energy, the way she moved without fear, and the way she looked when the helmet broke. All of it stayed with him. She wasn't just a warrior. She was something more. Across the camp, Mira stood alone near the watchtower. Her face was calm, but her mind was not. Since the fight, more soldiers had been looking at her differently, some with respect, some with curiosity. Others didn't know what to think. She had kept her power hidden for so long. Now it was out, and there was no going back. Later that day, Commander Lee called a private meeting inside the command tent. Mira, Ravi, and 2 Union officers attended. One of the officers, an alien named Selvin, looked at Mira with sharp eyes. "We were told your kind no longer used energy flow," Selvin said. "It was forbidden." Mira replied softly, "It was not forbidden. It was hidden." "Why now?" Selvin asked. "Why reveal it during this mission?" Mira looked at Ravi for a moment before answering. "Because it was the only way to protect my team. And it was time to stop hiding." Lee stepped in. "She saved lives. That's what matters." Selvin leaned back. "Still, the council must be told. They may see this as dangerous." Ravi couldn't stay silent. "She's not dangerous. She's brave. She risked everything for us. If you can't see that, maybe the council should look again." There was a long silence. Then Selvin stood. "We will report, but I will speak in her defense." After the officers left, Lee turned to Mira. "Things will change after this. I know," Mira said. Ravi stepped closer. "Are you okay?" She nodded. "I'm used to standing alone. But now, I feel less alone." That night, Mira and Ravi walked through the forest trail just beyond the camp. The moonlight filtered through the leaves, and the path glowed with soft colors from the plants. They didn't speak for a while, just walked in silence. Then Ravi asked, "Where did that power come from?" Mira stopped near a glowing tree and looked up. "My people once used energy from the mind and heart. It was part of our way. But long ago, after a war between our own kind, the leaders chose to stop. They feared what we could become. Only a few of us still hold the gift. Fewer still know how to use it. Were you trained? Ravi asked. Secretly, she said. By my mother. She was one of the last energy readers. She taught me balance, how to feel the world, how to protect instead of destroy. Ravi listened closely. He had never heard anything like it. Why didn't you tell anyone? He asked. Because many think power must be controlled, and when someone fears you, they stop seeing you as a person. Ravi looked at her carefully. I never feared you. She smiled softly. That's why I trusted you. They sat down on a flat stone near the tree. Fireflies circled quietly around them. Ravi asked, So what now? Will they take you away? No, she said. Not yet, but I will be watched. I'll stand with you. Ravi said, No matter what happens. Mira looked at him. You already have, more than anyone. They didn't need to say more. The forest was quiet, but something unspoken passed between them, something warm and strong. The next morning, a message came from the Galactic Union base. A final meeting would be held soon. All teams would gather to discuss the future of Varan and how to stop the Xanax threat. Every leader would attend, including new human representatives. Commander Lee turned to Mira and Ravi. You both will speak. Us? Ravi asked, surprised. You found the tunnels. You saw the ancient ruins. And Mira. He looked at her. You showed the truth. Mira nodded slowly. We will speak. The meeting was held in a wide open field near the Union base. Tall flags of many species waved in the wind. Ships landed in rows, and soldiers from every world stood in lines. In the center stood a raised platform. Mira and Ravi walked up together. Ravi looked at the crowd and felt nervous. He was not a leader. He was a technician. But now, everyone waited to hear what he had to say. He took a deep breath. My name is Ravi. I'm not a soldier. I fix machines. But during this mission, I saw something more powerful than any weapon trust. He looked at Mira. She could have stayed silent. She could have kept her strength hidden. But she chose to protect us. And that showed me what real strength is, not power, but courage. The courage to be seen. The crowd was quiet. Then Mira stepped forward. My name is Mira. I was trained to hide. But I learned that hiding does not protect peace, it only delays it. My people have a gift. I used it to defend life, not to destroy. And I asked the council to see not only what I am, but who I am. The Union Council whispered among themselves. Then the lead speaker, a tall being with crystal skin, raised their hand. The council sees. We do not fear your gift. Mira, we honor your choice. Let your truth be a new step forward. The crowd slowly began to clap. Then louder. Cheers rose from all around. Mira looked at Ravi, and for the first time, her face fully relaxed. Later that evening, after the meeting ended, Ravi and Mira stood on a small hill looking down at the camp. Stars filled the sky. Ravi said, You did it? No, Mira said. We did. He smiled. So what happens now? We keep going, she said, together. Ravi looked up at the stars. I think this is just the beginning. 2 days after the council meeting, the atmosphere across the camp was filled with energy and focus. Peace talks had begun between the Union leaders and human officials. But the threat of the Xanax still hung over Varan like a dark cloud. Even after the tunnels were destroyed, scouts had reported strange movements in the far mountains. Mira believed it wasn't over. She was right. Commander Lee called a strategy meeting. A hologram of the region floated above the table. Red markers lit up near a canyon beyond the forest. We've intercepted Xanax signals here, Lee said, pointing. This may be their command base. If we stop them there, the attacks will end. Union officer Sullivan nodded. It must be a joint mission. Humans, Union soldiers, and gifted warriors like Mira. Ravi stood at the side, holding his drone pad. He had updated the drones with new sensors and a stronger signal range. They could help scan deep inside the rocky terrain. Commander Lee looked at Mira. We want you to lead the forward unit. You know how the Xanax move. Mira didn't hesitate. I will go. Ravi spoke next. And I'll guide the drones. We can't walk blind. Lee nodded. Then this is it. We move at sunrise. That night, Mira and Ravi stood near the ship's viewing deck, watching the stars above. This mission could end everything, Ravi said. Yes, Mira replied. Or begin something new. Ravi turned to her. You're different now. Not just because the council trusts you. You seem stronger. I stopped hiding, she said. Not just from others, but from myself. Ravi smiled. Whatever happens tomorrow, I'm glad I met you. Mira looked at him quietly, her voice soft. So am I at dawn. The team gathered near the eastern exit of the camp. Mira wore lighter armor this time, designed for speed and movement. Her staff glowed faintly at her side. Ravi wore a new command vest with a drone hub built into his arm. They were joined by Koro, Benel, and 3 Union soldiers with special tracking gear. A scout ship dropped them at the base of the canyon. The land was rocky and dry. Red cliffs rose around them, and strong winds blew sand across the narrow paths. Ravi sent the drones ahead. On the screen, he saw long stone bridges and caves built into the canyon walls. Xanax architecture. Koro said, They've made a home here. Then we knock on their door, Mira replied. They moved slowly through the winding paths. Mira walked in front, silent but alert. Ravi followed, eyes on the drone feed. The rest of the team covered the sides. Keeping watch. After an hour, one of Ravi's drones caught movement. Something's ahead, he whispered. It's not Xanax, not fully. He zoomed in. They saw strange creatures, part metal, part flesh. They moved slowly and followed a set pattern. They're guard units, Mira said. Not alive in the full sense. Machines grown from Xanax. Tissue. Benel looked nervous. Can we fight them? No, Mira said. We go round. Ravi guided the drones through a hidden side tunnel. Mira led the team quietly through the shadows. They passed just below the guards without being seen, deeper inside the canyon. The team reached a wide open chamber. At the center stood a tall structure made of black stone and metal. It pulsed with a red light. This is it, Ravi said. That signal is strong. This must be their control tower. Koro checked his scanner. They're powering up something. A weapon. Mira walked forward, eyes locked on the tower. No, a pulse device. If they activate it, it will shut down all Union tech on this planet, including your drones. Ravi's eyes widened. Then we'll be blind. We have to stop it. Now, Mira said. Suddenly, alarms blared from the walls. Red lights flashed. The ground shook. Xanax warriors dropped from the upper ledges, surrounding the chamber. Fall back. Mira shouted. The team took cover behind rocks and old structures. Ravi ducked and protected his control pad. He managed to keep one drone in the air. Mira, he called out. They're guarding the control tower. I can mark the weak points. Do it, she shouted. Ravi tapped quickly, sending red markers over the tower's structure. Mira moved like wind again. She dodged attacks, striking with her staff, leaping from one rock to another. The others fought as well, Koro with his dual blades, Benel with his shock rifle. But it was Mira who stood in the center, leading like a storm. She reached the tower, touched the base, and placed a disruptor device. Energy surged from her hand, activating the tool. Then dash boom. A wave of light exploded outward, and the red pulses stopped. The tower shut down. The Xanax froze. Without the control tower, their signal was gone. Their bodies slowed, and their weapons failed. The canyon went silent. When the team returned to the camp, the sky had turned gold. Word of the mission's success spread quickly. Cheers rose from the soldiers. Flags waved in the wind. Commander Lee met them at the gate. You did it, he said. Looking at Mira and Ravi, you stopped the last threat. The Xanax have lost their hold on Varan. Mira nodded, her face calm but proud. Lee turned to Ravi. And you, technician, I hope you're ready. You'll be leading tech coordination for all future missions. Ravi blinked. Me? Yes, your work saved more lives than most weapons ever could. Ravi smiled. I'll try not to crash any more drones into trees. Everyone laughed. That evening, the camp held a gathering under the stars. Soft lights floated in the air. Music from many worlds played in the background. Soldiers, engineers, and officers shared stories and warm food. Mira stood near the edge, looking up at the sky. Ravi walked up beside her, holding two cups of warm tea. One for you, he said. Thank you, she replied, taking it. They stood together in silence for a while. You were amazing out there, Ravi said. You too, Mira replied. You guided us. You saw through chaos. Ravi looked at her. You showed me that strength isn't just in the body. It's in choices. And heart, she met his eyes. And you showed me that being seen is not something to fear. They clinked their cups gently. To peace, Ravi offered. To truth, Mira said. They smiled. And somewhere far above, the stars watched quietly as two unlikely allies became something more. 2 weeks had passed since the final battle in the canyon. Varan was peaceful now. No more Xanax signals, no more hidden tunnels. The forest had begun to heal, and so had the people. The Union base expanded. Tents were replaced by proper buildings. Scouts were now farmers. Soldiers planted trees instead of explosives. What was once a battlefield had turned into a hopeful home. Ravi stood on the edge of the new communications tower. He held a drone in one hand and a tool in the other. Behind him, two young tech students watched closely. See this? Ravi said, showing them a silver wire. This connects the memory core to the signal relay. If it breaks, the drone gets lost. The students nodded. You use this to find the Xanax, right? One of them asked. Ravi smiled. Yes, but more than the machine. It was teamwork. Machines help, but it's people who make the right choices. Just then, a soft hum came from above. One of his drones floated down and blinked blue. A voice came from its speaker. Ravi, report to the Union Hall. Mira is waiting. He raised an eyebrow. What now? He whispered, but his heart beat a little faster. Inside the new Union Hall, leaders from many worlds sat around a round table. The air was calm, but serious. Flags of different species hung above. Mira stood near the front, dressed in formal armor. Her staff rested against the wall. She looked strong, yet peaceful. Ravi entered, brushing dust off his vest. Mira, he said, you called. She turned and gave a small smile. Yes, you're part of this now. Part of what, Commander? We stood and spoke. The Union is creating a special exploration team, a joint mission. Humans, aliens, and gifted individuals working together to discover ancient knowledge. Sylvan, the alien officer who once doubted Mira, stood too. Your experience with the ancient ruins of Varan and your ability to work together across cultures makes you both perfect for this. Ravi blinked. Wait, boss, you want us to leave? Mira answered calmly. The stars are full of places like Varan, forgotten worlds, old threats, hidden truths. They need to be explored, protected. Ravi looked at her. Are you going? Yes, she said, and I want you to come with me. He looked at the room full of leaders, then back at Mira. I fix drones, he said. You also see people for who they really are. She replied, that's rare. He thought for a moment, then smiled. I'm in. Preparations began the next day. The ship was called Soulwind, a sleek silver vessel with smooth wings and a powerful core. It could travel farther than any Union cruiser. Inside, the rooms were simple but clean. A control room, a lab, sleeping quarters, and a viewing deck. Mira chose her cabin next to Ravi's. Not by accident, Koro, Benel, and two new crew members joined them, Elan, a data expert from the water world Nelora, and Miran, a quiet pilot. With sharp reflexes, the team trained together for 5 days running drills, testing systems, and learning to trust one another. On the 6th day, Mira and Ravi stood in the ship's garden chamber, a small place with glowing plants and soft light. Do you think we're ready? Ravi asked. No, Mira said. But that's what makes it exciting. He laughed. You always sound so sure. She looked at him. That's because I have someone beside me who balances my silence with his questions. He looked into her eyes, and I have someone who reminds me that strength doesn't have to shout. They stood close, not speaking, not needing to. The bond between them was clear now, soft, strong, and real. Launch day arrived. The base gathered near the pad. Soldiers, officers, farmers, and families all waved as Solwind powered up. Mira stood at the front of the ship, looking out through the glass. Ravi stood beside her, his drone floating behind him. Final systems check complete, Elan said. Course plotted. Miran added. K. Oro gave a thumbs up. Engine stable. Benno leaned over. Ready for something crazy again? Ravi grinned. Always. Mira looked at Ravi. Captain says go. You're the captain. Ravi laughed. She smiled. I know. The engines flared. With a quiet rumble, Solwind rose into the sky, leaving the green forest of Vron behind. The ship broke through the clouds and into space. Stars stretched in every direction. A glowing planet turned below them. Ahead, endless galaxies waited. In the control room, the crew settled into their seats. Ravi sat beside Mira. He looked at the stars and whispered, magnificent. She turned her head. The view? No, Ravi said, smiling. You? She didn't blush. Mira never did. But her smile stayed for a long time. Thank you, she said. They didn't know what dangers waited beyond, but they didn't need to, because this time they weren't afraid. They were a team, and together, they were ready for anything. The end.